Well, given the experience that we had in the primaries, there's what you can expect and then there's what you really cannot expect. Just comes out of nowhere. Well, some would debate in this particular case, we had what was coming our way. In this, I'm talking about the Gatundu South Member of Parliament, Moses Kuria, who had some not so nice words to say to Kennedy Mureithi, who was interrogating, asking questions around violence that had come up at a polling station during the primaries. And yes, Kennedy Mureithi is that journalist whose name betrays him, if you remember that same incident. Let's listen in. Also, the Editors Guild had a response to this.
I'm tired of stupid media, okay? No. If someone accuses me, bring them here. Everything wrong that happens in this country is blamed on Moses Kuria.
All shame to you, Moses Kuria, for conducting yourself consistently below the dignity of the office and title you hold.
So, as to how this played out, I mean, there was a live, that was censored, but when it went out, it wasn't censored. Macharia, what did you feel when you first saw it?
First of all, I don't understand how we beeped out what he said. I mean, either we become such sissies, or we've been, terrorized by Ezekiel Mutua. It is a common everyday word. And we're cheating our viewers if we can criticize something but not sure what it is we are criticizing. Secondly, I don't see the big deal. There was a debate somewhere on some journalists forum, and guys were saying we should sue, blah, blah. And I said, sue for what? You have to be strong enough to dish it out as much as you can, to take it as much as you can dish it out. An insult here and there is not defamation. It's not suable. We criticize people every day. If Moses Kuria thinks I'm an idiot or something else, that's his prerogative. I don't give a damn, really.
Right. And you're safe because we're after 10. But the issue there was the utterances were made within the window shed period, when kids are probably watching.
It was nothing so outrageous that he said.
All right. But they're popular, such politicians are popular for saying other quite insightful words. And he's been in a number of cases of hate speech. And in this particular issue, people say we should have the technology to delay what goes on there, and if it does go out, then we should be made to pay. It's actually meant to be a penalty.
Oh my God. The thing is, I mean, the media cannot police everybody. You cannot anticipate what's in somebody's head. You cannot anticipate what they're going to do. And if you're going to journal, I mean, we're in the business of journalism, journaling what happened. That's what happened. That's actually what happened, Right. And, I mean, I appreciate that we have to be conscious of younger viewers and that kind of thing, but it's not the media's fault that we have people in leadership.
Yes, yes. You don't want to call them leaders.
Who can't behave themselves.
Right, right.
I mean, that was a case of just lack of restraint. I mean, it's possible to disagree. It's possible even to be angry without using words like that.
All right. So, your response to this?
Well, I think the media makes a choice to interview these personalities, and I won't blame you for what comes out of Kuria's mouth. That's all on him. And I do agree to an extent with Macharia when he says that, I mean, we really have not to sort of be afraid of saying this is what was actually said. Right. And stuff. But still, we privilege some of these guys, and I think they ride on the fact that they might say these sort of things because they know media will come running, So I don't really think that I can take the media entirely away from it. I think when we choose to put certain characters front and center, that we should take some responsibility for how that then plays, because we privilege that.
We had it coming.
So yeah, I mean, to be quite honest, that's probably what we are seeking, because then, that's what we get.
But Italy, real quick on this one.
I think the media has never come out strongly to define what hate speech is. When Moses Kuria uses the F word, maybe he was pissed off by a particular question that the journalist asked. But, okay, I'm not trying to support him. I think that was I would say, unparliamentary, because he wouldn't say that in Parliament. He would be thrown out by the Speaker. But the media should be able to dig deep and define what hate speech is.
But is it on the media or is it on the institutions
No,
that are
no,
meant
no.
to police this kind of
No, just the
behavior?
media, because when someone like Senator Mudhama says, Uhuru na Ruto wametuchosha, tutawakanyaga kanyaga hadi waende nyumbani. That's not hate speech. But when the media is cornered, they say that was hate speech. To me, I understand. I believe hate speech could be like when you cite a particular tribe against another, or when you tell somebody to arm himself or herself to attack someone else. I think that's hate speech. But there are some things that someone can say out of anger that may not necessarily be hate speech. But from where I sit, in our party, you will not hear of any member of parliament uttering such words, okay, in public.
Well, Mudhama, you've even mentioned Mudhama, who hasn't been quite the innocent one.
No, I'm just trying to give an example. But what I was trying to say, from the party where I sit, the ODM party, you will rarely see a member of parliament or hear a member of parliament saying things that are unpalatable to
well,
the
they
public.
shared some time in behind bars. Junaid Mohammed, perhaps?
I'm talking about our members of parliament.
Well, Junaid Mohammed was... Junaid Mohammed, does it refresh your memory? They shared some time behind bars?
That's the past, and we talked
Oh, now it's the past.
we have talked to them. We have a forum where we sit our members down and we talk to them. We tell them this is how you appear in public, this is what you should say, and this is not what you should say. So some things, what the other side lacks is that kind of leadership to train their leaders on what to say in public, so that it does not appear like
You have Mashari laughing. I'm not sure he thinks it's funny or
arrogant.
Philip is doing his job.
Yeah.
So we can respect that. But I think our politicians across all sides do tend to misbehave.
Right.
I don't think there's any party.
there
which
are
can-
guns for hire and they're known. So should they be avoided, given a,
But it depends again on
a
what
blackout, which
you
is what
want
many
to
have
achieve.
proposed?
I know. If you want to have a decent conversation, you don't go to the rabble house, because that's not what you're going to get. Right. And that's our problem. We're looking for the spectacle. That's what we are seeking. That's why we seek out those people. Not the guys who actually want to discuss what the issues might actually be. Because we think, well, that's boring, get Korea in.
Yes.
But I'm not 100% sure we should avoid them, because they are in leadership, But I think the danger is in being played by them, where they actually set up these spectacles for media to follow. And I think we heard Ezekiel Mutua on World Press Freedom Day saying that he actually does that, And it's kind of worrying that we're being baited and falling for the bait. So we have to be careful. We have to manage that.
Right.
But I don't think that we should, black out people.
I would not black out people, because blacking out for me means covering up for them.
Yeah.
Right.
I think if somebody is saying things which are outrageous, or if he's inciting people against each other, people into violence, I'd rather expose him than cover up for him, as simple as that.
But airing what he said doesn't have the effect of giving him a bigger platform.
Not necessarily. I think it shows what kind of, it
Yes,
shows the public
it
what kind
allows
of
people
person
to
he
see
is.
who he is.
But there's a new trend in media where there's competition, especially on television. There's this what you call live view, and every media house wants to go live, going to interview each and every person, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, thinking that they're going to give you something, You need to prep someone before taking him on air. You see, I have an experience during the party primaries when there were some issues at Orange House, some aspirants coming with their supporters. Then you find a media house is set up, they are ready to go live. Then they are given the link. Then this person just says anything that comes his way. They could use one.
In this particular instance,
and
did
you cannot
he
censor
misrepresent the position of the party? Is that your problem?
No. When they're speaking out there, it's not the position of the party. These are aspirants aggrieved, they're trying to say that they lost fairly or unfairly, But, in good media practice, we need to prepare someone, tell him, we are going on air. It will be live, but please use a language that is palatable, a language that is acceptable.
Right.
You see,
He brings up something. He brings up something that others
what you're
have
lacking right
in the practice have said in the competition of being live, and just going wall to wall coverage, which is what we're going to experience in the August 8th general elections. Then we don't have the luxury of having a producer by you as you go around with your mic as you ask questions. So you go to the person who's willing to talk. That's your closest bet. So you talk to them, they tell you whatever it is, they'll tell you, move on to the next person. You're looking for someone who, give you some juicy bites, right? And not necessarily have a producer who will vet them.
Right.
So it's not a luxury we enjoy.
Well, I think, again, that's where I have a bit of an issue. I mean, I think it's not just about going to the first guy who you're going to speak to. I think it's about knowing what's the story you want to tell. And unfortunately for much of media, is what it is about chasing after the eyeballs. It's chasing after what will sort of create a buzz. Yeah. As you said, the juicy bits. But those aren't necessarily the most informative bits. And I think for me, you can take a big lesson from what the media in the U.S. has learned from Trump, because he kept baiting them and they kept falling for it. And they built him up in a very real sense. Because he'd always get covered because he's going to say something stupid. And I think our guys are playing to that. They do. It will happen. Let's not jump in and do it.
There's a space where I don't quite agree, because I think there's an extent to which media does pursue a story.
Yes.
But they also have a responsibility to allow people to feed back and to reflect society on itself. So I mean, I'm not afraid of putting a mic in front of people. I don't think we should be afraid of putting a mic in front of people and allowing them to express themselves. What comes out of their mouth, not our responsibility, Right. It's not our responsibility. That is our society. And I think we're kind of over-policing ourselves and over, staging everything. I mean, that's not journalism. If you start staging everything, you may as well have a theater and rehearse and then put everybody on stage.
The thing is this, I mean, there will always be some limits, and those are defined.
Yeah.
I think there is every serious media house has a code of ethics or code of practice.
Yeah.
The Media Council has a code of practice for journalism, and it defines what you can do and what you should be doing as a reporter in terms of what voices you allow, how you let them say it, whether you're live, and how to moderate debates, what you can go into on print. For TV, it's trickier because you're holding a microphone and you're on live TV. You don't have the luxury of time for a sub-editor and a bank of editors to look at it and consider and call conferences before going to press. But there is still that technology, and I think it is still in use today, over 30-second delay, and it's there for things done outside.
Although I think in reality,
where sometimes if something is particularly outrageous, then it might be good to beep it out.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you to an extent. I mean, I'm not saying that we go against journalistic standards, but I think that there is the reality that slips will happen, and the person behind the mic has to be on the ball enough to recover, explain that that's not on, and pick it up from there. Because if you try to vet everything, and we're moving into a real-time world on digital, it's going to be real-time where we're going. Some of these things, I think we need to, find other ways of handling, even still as professionals. But I really am against a place where every single person who appears on TV has been told, okay, sit like this and don't laugh too much, and it just belies.
When we come back, I'll ask you this question. You can stick to this and not that. I mean, this is how it can be choreographed. That's true.
Yes.
And that's just before we take a break. Something else that we also need to be careful. Still talking about live coverage. And if my director would run the footage there of the violence that was experienced in Migori a bit over 2 weeks now, where 4 people were seriously injured and property destroyed. destroyed after a group of ODM youth disrupted an ODM training session for presiding officers at Rakwaro Mixed Secondary School in Migori. And this was around April 20th. And these were comprised of supporters of Okoth Obado and Ochilo Ayako. Well, following this, several were arrested and are facing justice. But some of the pictures here we have blurred, but when they went on air and filed as a story, they were not quite blurred. They were clear. You could see what was happening. And many wrote in and said, how could you, a respectable media house, be showing this kind of footage? You know what it does to the public. It beats up emotions. Rose, what in your initial reactions? I'm not sure if you saw the story when it aired at first, but
I didn't see the first airing.
yes.
I think those are the kind of situations where journalists have to be trained and to learn to think on their feet and to, if necessary, go to black, you know, just black out whatever or go back to themselves or something, you know. I think much as we're trying to go to, you know, to let people see things as they happen, there are circumstances and situations that are, you know, even as a journalist, you feel revolted and you feel emotionally something's wrong and you need to be able to react and learn. But it's a training. It's a training. I mean, I've worked with journalists and it's not something that you do automatically. The same shock that the public goes through, the journalist also goes through, and they may take a couple of seconds before they react. Right. But it's important to react.
If I may, I think the question for me is, who are you protecting when you blur that video? I mean, do you remember the Boniface Manono video when he was being kicked around by the riot police? Would you have blurred that? You know, and what effect would it have had? You know, that was the effect of showing people the brutality of the state.
But this here, in the pictures that, as we talk about them, we could probably show them again, Mr. Director. The pictures there show a man who's actually being slapped by side of the panga. I'm not sure he was quite hacked, but he was brutally, you know.
Well, Manono was really brutally beaten, you know.
Yes. And you have a particular issue with this because it was, you know, by a police officer.
Right. So are we saying it's okay to show brutality by a police officer, but not by a fellow citizen? Who are we protecting? You know, and I think in terms of showing the public that, look, this is where you're headed, you know, these are things that are actually happening, then you can deal with that.
But it beats up emotions.
My point before about the people like Courier and stuff wasn't saying black them out. You know, what I was saying is, what story do you want to tell? Which stories do you privilege?
Yes.
That is an important story. There's violence going on in nominations, an important story.
But what about our duty to the public? The duty
but
to the public.
The duty to the public is to show them this is what is
If they don't want to see it,
well, then they can switch
they're the ones
I agree with Gadar to a certain extent. I saw when it was first aired, and it was from a distance, you could not tell whether the guy had his head chopped off or was just being hit by the side of the panga. It was disturbing, but it was also the reality. Because of the distance, it did not show anything really gory. It did not show somebody's ear hacked off or nose hacked off. It did not show any blood. But it did show the reality of that particular nomination. And it also showed people the reality of our politics and the dangers we face as we head into elections. And I think people can now sit back and say, wait a minute, is it worth dying for?
But some have said, especially if it's in a live situation, and you're showing violence has erupted in a certain part of the country, there's a danger of having the copycat syndrome in another area. For instance, if it's some community being attacked by another, and that's when we're told, black it out.
There's also the danger.
That's tricky. No, that is some serious self-censorship.
Yeah, I mean,
if there is violence in the country, irrespective of whether it is a community or whatever or football, who benefits by blacking it out?
Is this part of what you mentioned in the name of
hiding our data under the carpet?
In the name of preaching peace, is this what you were alluding to?
And I think that's probably what he's alluding to. But no, I think his is more of electoral disputes.
No. Mark, you know, violence is violence. and we cannot run away from that. But the media should help us protect our young children from such kind of incidences. You know, if I'm seated in my living room with my kids watching news, and then such things are aired on TV, you know, what image are we giving to these young kids? We should not, actually what I'm saying is such kind of things should be censored because it's not important.
That is what was argument.
It doesn't, no, Gather, I'm trying to put across a point that you may not understand. Because what happened in Migori was a serious thing that should not be abetted by anyone. Nobody should condone such kind of things. And on the other side, the media should also help us avoid such kind of incidences. Because if they showed the Migori one live, then what will happen to Muranga or Kakamega? Someone in Kakamega will say, hey, I saw it in Migori, let me do it again.
Well, in this environment of people having social media platforms and start sharing the videos that are not edited, uncut, as they probably saw it and recorded, then where do we stand in terms of credibility? Then people think, oh, so now you're hiding the fact that some people are being killed in a certain area of the country.
Well, I think if you get into the business of saying I will show this violence and I won't show this one, then you're putting yourself in a problem. But I also think that if you utilize the argument, which as I said is Mutua's argument of let's protect the children, but you do it to censor what adults can see, you know, then you've got a problem. You know, the fact is violence is happening. What I think the question should be is what we are showing gratuitous, i.e. does it go over and beyond what is necessary to portray the point, to put across the point? You know, that's, I think that for me is the only consideration that you have. You know, and obviously the news once you've agreed that this is something newsworthy that people need to see.
Right.
It's just to what extent do you need to go to so that people actually get your point.
Right.
You know, you don't just black it out because, oh, violence is bad. If violence is happening, you show violence. You know, you don't hide it. You know, and that is my point. Is that I think the media should not be in the business of censoring the news. You know, yes. It's simply just saying what do we need to do to tell what it actually is.
Well, then comes the argument of, well, when there's violence, there's blood shed and what have you, what picture are you drawing to the world when you show this, when you beam this?
Well, I really don't think that the world is our audience. You know, I mean, I think the audience here we're speaking to is the Kenyan public. You know,
yes.
And I think we're kind of saying the same thing, Gadara. I think there's just at what point do you cut off the violence? At how much violence is enough to tell the story? Okay. You know, and that is what we need to show. I mean, I think the nation itself, a while ago when we had Westgate, had a huge outcry over a front page story. And that was from the public. It wasn't you know, it wasn't journalists or whatever. It was the public that said, that's too much. That one is too much. And so we have to be very conscious about how much we show, you know?
Okay. All
yeah.
Right. We'll take a break at this point. There's a lot more to tackle. And there's this issue of preaching peace, and where media has, you know, the place to draw the line, whether it's its role or not.
One very quick last point. I think the important thing that the media needs to decide, whether we're talking about Migori or Kuria or whatever, is what's the story we are telling.
Okay.
You know, and is it a story that is worth telling? And if it is worth telling, what do we need to do to tell it?
Well, besides TV, radio, print, I mean, print in terms of just print journalism, there's what you do, and that is cartoonists, and there's satire. And we can address that in terms of what it can do, the part it can play moving forward into the August 8th elections after we come back from the break. There's that issue of non-partisan journalism within our newsrooms. Can we really say, my vote is with so-and-so, and let it be known, and I'll still be a journalist? It is happening in the Western world. So let's see if it's possible here.